right, let's react to Week 11 AP Top 25 poll and or rankings, depending on how you want to talk about it. Oh, it's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
Oh yeah, real quick, subscribe to the newsletter, get an opportunity to be the person to win this. I'm giving it away on December 8th. It means you got between now and December 7th to sign up for the RJ Young Show newsletter. There's a link in the description below. Please give me your Hotmail address. Give me the junk mail address, the one you only use to get the percentage off for that one time, for that one purchase. If you want to give me your time and actually read what I'm going to write for you and all the, well, free stuff and links to some offers that basically just use my name to get stuff, then yeah, give it to your primary. But right now, I just want the stats. Hook a brother up. Let me hook you up. All right. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every day. It's always college-related, sports-related. We have a good time. Today, I want to react to Week 11 Top 25 AP poll. Let's get right to it in a week following, well, a home slate, but I'm here for all sorts of college football all the time. But the top three remain unchanged. LSU at number 1. Fine. We'll see if they can live up to that ranking this week because this is the week of weeks. Game day is in Tuscaloosa. They're going to play number 2, Alabama. We'll get to see what Tua Tagovailoa looks like after coming off tiny dance surgery where he had the tightrope for his other ankle. Now he's had tightrope surgery on both of those ankles. But he's still got Brian Robinson, Najee Harris in the backfield, and what many people believe is the best quartet of wide receivers in all of college football. We'll see what that means against an LSU defensive backfield that has been statistically not great, but Derek Stingley is, and Grant Delpit is. And we can continue to talk about what that secondary could be like. We could also talk about what that front seven is going to be able to do against Alabama's offensive line, and particularly what's going to go on with LSU's offensive line versus Bama's inexperienced front seven featuring 4 true freshmen. Very excited about that, as many people are. Probably have a lot more to say about that throughout the week. But 1, 2, LSU, Alabama. Number 3 is Ohio State, for which I thought they should be number 1. Because when we talk about complete football teams, which is the in vogue term for Ohio State, you're not going to be able to get anything better than what they're doing right now. Offensively, defensively, they have everything you want. They are beating people like they stole something in Alabama. In Ohio State, you get what you want in college football when you talk about a definitive number 1 team in the country. It's not just that you're winning, it's that you're winning by a lot and you're winning decisively. Put it this way. Cincinnati has 1 loss. 1 loss, undefeated in conference play in a very deep American this year. And it's to an Ohio State team that beat them 42-0. All right? They're really good. Chase Young is like the Predator, come to earth, playing defensive end for the Buckeyes. Like, he's 6'6", 270, and is bigger than a lot of the people that he is running down. He looks bigger than grown men who already look huge themselves. Ohio State at number 3. They'll get tested again. Penn State, they'll get Michigan, who seems to be putting it together, but putting it together against bad teams is not necessarily putting it together. And then Big Ten Championship, they go undefeated. We know what it is. At number 4, Clemson, 9-0, beat up on Wofford. FCS Wofford. Cool. I mean, Travis Etienne needed 9 carries to go for 212 yards. I mean, that dude is a chunk yardage kind of dude, but that's still absurd, right? And Trevor Lawrence is Trevor Lawrence, and Justin Ross is Justin Ross, and T. Higgins, and Brent Venables' defense is still just ridiculously awesome. I'll leave them there at 4. It's fine. They cakewalked through last year and then beat up on Notre Dame and Alabama in successive games. We'll let that one go. At number 5, Penn State is undefeated. 8-0. They get Minnesota, who's also undefeated. We'll see where they're ranked here in a little bit. James Franklin's boys have an opportunity to get themselves a nice pelt. Another one, I might add, because they beat up on Michigan. They beat up on Michigan State. What else do you want them to do? Beat up on Ohio State? They get an opportunity to do that later on this month. The game for them is the same as it is for everybody else. Just win, baby. Sean Clifford is somebody's Austin Kendall, which is another way of saying that if Austin Kendall was fortunate enough to have the tools around him that a guy like Sean Clifford does, Noah Cain, Journey Brown, and of course KJ Hamler, he probably would be that good. I'm not kidding. Micah Parsons on the other side has some bust, has some misplays, but he's a freak, and I enjoy watching him play football. I enjoy James Franklin winning, and I can't wait to see what this Penn State team is like, not just this weekend, but in a couple weeks when they got to play Ohio State. At number 6, Georgia moves up to number 6. 7-1 with a beatdown of Florida. Won that game 24-17. It didn't look as close as it was on the scoreboard for about 3.5 quarters, and then Florida started to put some stuff together. Was a little too much. It was too much, too late. A little too. What's the phrase? Too little, too late. That's the phrase. But I saw a Georgia defense that, frankly, was given nothing to the Florida offense. Was able to get them off the field, put the ball back in the hands of the offense. Jake Fromm looked good, 20 of 30. Lawrence Cager looked better, 7 catches for 132 yards. When DeAndre Swift gets touches, 25 carries, 86 yards, he was decent. It was a Georgia-like performance, which is to say they're beating up on somebody they should beat up on, but can they beat the SEC West opponent that they will likely face in an SEC championship? We'll have to wait and see. Sorry, my sinuses get messed up, so you hear me do that from time to time. At number 7 is Oregon. Demonstrative win against a mediocre USC team. Clay Helton, I'm sorry, dog. They want you up out of there. They're going to get you up out the paint and probably going to bring in, to many people's mind, Urban Meyer. Mostly when Mike Bohn wants to do, they hired a dude from Cincinnati as their new athletic director. You know that he knows all about what it's like to have Urban Meyer in his backyard. See if he can get him to coach for his team. Getting the blessing of 2 dudes on the Fox Big Nude set with Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush going, Urban, go coach him up. Go get USC back to winning ways. Shelly Meyer, I'm sorry about you. Doesn't sound like this is something you want to happen, but them's the breaks, certainly for USC. As for Oregon, hey man, they got the one loss to an Auburn team that might end up 8-4 this year, is beating up on the teams that it should be and losing to the teams that we thought it would lose to. Oregon might come out of the Pac-12, and if they win out and Oklahoma wins out, we'll do the resume thing when they do that thing. But right now, a one-loss Oregon as a Pac-12 champ versus a one-loss Oklahoma is an interesting conversation to have, to say nothing of a one-loss Georgia coming to the SEC. We absolutely think that the SEC is going to get at least 1 team in, probably 2, depending on how this LSU-Alabama game goes, because people say quality loss. Like if it's a 3-point loss for either team, and neither one of those, and that team that loses does not play in the SEC championship, could easily see the SEC champ and the SEC West best team, second best team, get into this playoff to everybody's chagrin, except if you're an SEC fan, of course. Number 8, Utah got a good W yesterday against Washington. Got a nice pick 6 on Jacob Eason, who had 59 pass attempts. We know that when Kyle Whittingham's boys show up to play defense and run the ball, they're good. Tyler Huntley seems to be figuring it out as a quarterback. Zach Moss is a load back there. It's a good win because Washington is a good program. Now, they got the loss early to Cal. And we know they got the loss to Oregon, but I still think Washington is one of the better programs in all the country that just has, those 3 losses. And I think anytime you can get a win against them, it's good for you. So now we got Utah basically in control of the Pac-12 South once again. All they got to do is win out, and maybe they get to go up against an Oregon team that really would need Utah to be in that game for people to take that championship game seriously and give Oregon the nod as, one of the best Power 5 teams. There are 4 spots for 5 Power 5 conference teams, whatever. Number 9, Oklahoma at 7-1 off a bye. They get Iowa State this week, who's also off a bye. That game's at 7 o'clock on Big Fox. We'll see what that means for Oklahoma, who has been undefeated in the Lincoln Riley era during the month of November. They certainly need to put together that kind of a stretch run with Iowa State, Texas Christian, Baylor, and Oklahoma State still left to play, and hopefully a Big 12 championship. At number 10, got Florida, first 2-loss team that's ranked, with losses to, yes, LSU at number 1, and number 6, Georgia, now in Jacksonville in the world's largest cocktail party. World's largest cocktail party. Said it right that time. I really like what Florida could be, but they haven't been what they could be at all this year, right? I thought that they have a really great assortment of wide receivers. Like the receivers that Florida has with Pitts and Swain and Jefferson, they could go up against LSU's Terrence Marshall, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. They could go up against Bama's Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs. They are that good. They just haven't played that well. And they need a run game to be good. And I thought that C.J. Henderson was going to be excellent. He's Thorpe Award semifinalist. It's just, I thought they were going to be better than what they've been. And I don't know that I would rank them this highly as a 2-loss team, but when I think about 2-loss teams, I really don't rank them highly that at all, because I think that wins and losses matter, but there's the AP poll. Baylor at number 11, 8-0. Okay, cool. They need a 3-point win against West Virginia team that might finish at the bottom of the conference after the season is over, but it's been pretty stout. Got a good W against NC State in non-conference play. Baylor just needs to keep doing what Baylor's doing because your resume isn't going to mean a whole hell of a lot to people unless you beat Oklahoma and you beat Texas and you've not played either one of them. You get them both this month, but you get them both in McLean Stadium. That ought to be a raucous environment, ought to be really awesome for both Baylor and Oklahoma and Baylor and Texas, especially if the W comes. We'll see what Matt Rule's boys are made of. I'm really interested to see what this team looks like defensively against these better offensive teams that it's going to face now. Because now that you've been able to beat up on, teams that can play defense but not necessarily can score with you, I'm interested to see what Baylor looks like when they play a team that can score with them. Now they get that game at home. Again, huge for them. And Charlie Brewer, I think, is the best pro prospect playing in the Big 12 right now. But we'll just have to wait and see. So I'll let Baylor slide at 11. I could see them at 10 above a Florida team, but I understand why people who think that Florida's just a better football team would put them there even with the 2 losses. Again, I think that wins and losses matter, so my poll's a bit different. Auburn at number 12 is the second highest ranked 2-loss team with losses again to teams you would expect them to take L's to, right? Florida, which is better, right? And beat them. We all thought that. And then LSU, which is better. Number 1, beat them. We all thought that. They beat up on Ole Miss last night, and we'll see if they can actually put a turd in the punch bowl when they play in the Iron Bowl against Alabama later this month. At number 13, we got Minnesota 8-0. Minnesota, as people say, ain't played nobody, right? Its best win to date is a very, very bad Nebraska team that is off the rails. I mean, Nebraska took an L to the third best team in Indiana last night in a quarterback, Jack Plummer, whose name is misspelled on the school's website. It's the worst rushing team in the Big Ten, and Nebraska lost to that team. Minnesota's going to have to beat Penn State this weekend and then run the table the rest of the way to even get a shot at this thing. If they beat Ohio State Big Ten championship, nobody's keeping them out. That ain't going to happen. But they got to get past a couple other people that we think can beat them up, and we'll see what the Golden Gophers are made of. Again, they're in the Baylor category. You got to just keep doing what you're doing. You got to win. You got to win out because nobody's going to remember that the Georgia Southern team that you beat up on just beat an unseeded, previously undefeated Appalachian State. Nobody's going to give you credit for that because I'm the only person that thought that Appalachian State was good, and I'm the only person that thought that Minnesota's non-conference schedule was good. South Dakota State, Fresno State, and Georgia Southern, that's a no-win situation for you, homie, because all those teams can play, all those teams are good, and nobody gives those teams any of the proper respect that is needed. So just keep doing what you're doing, Minnesota, and you'll be there. Michigan at number 14, 7-2, losses to Wisconsin, who we all thought was good. And, of course, a loss to Penn State, who is undefeated, who we think is good. So, in Michigan beating up on Maryland, I got to see the battle of the Bama co-coordinators, which is great because Mike Locksley shaded Josh Gaddis, saying, hey, Gaddis benefited from watching me call the plays at Alabama. I'm sure he's going to be great at Michigan. To which Gaddis said, oh, yeah, ask him who was putting together the game plan. And then we had Josh Gaddis beat the holy hell out of Maryland, 38-7. And we got Michigan giving their fans some hope that maybe they could do something like beat Ohio State, which they haven't done in the Jim Harbaugh era. But more than that, as my man Corey Karhoff, said in the comments on a previous video, imagine talking noise about Josh Gaddis while it's being 6-37 as a head coach. Yo. Body bag. Put him in a body bag. Ugh. Notre Dame at 15, 6-2. Nearly lost to Fuente and Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech ain't good this year, and I really wanted Fuente to get that W because he's from my hometown. He played at Oklahoma. He coached a really good Memphis team, and I was excited for him to end up at Blacksburg. Now it feels like he's going to be on his way out in Bud Foster's last year coaching football, particularly defensive coordinator at Virginia Tech. I thought they had it. They were up by 6 with just change left to play, and then Ian Book, who started playing like Jerome, when he's playing like Jerome, Book, he's good. Just change his name to Jerome. You understand what I'm getting at when I say y'all not really giving Ian Book the proper dual recognition. You know what I'm saying? Because when he out there like Jerome, my man is in his element. When he out there like Ian, not so much. They need a 1-point win against Vatech, and yet they're still ranked number 15 because AP voters don't know what they're doing whenever they see the Irish, the Fighting Irish, they just decide to bump them up. It's like Nebraska being in the coaches' poll preseason rankings. Like, what are y'all doing? Why is Notre Dame even here? They got a loss to Georgia, right? Okay? And then they got beat to hell by Michigan. Well, get them up out the paint, but they still here at 15. Wisconsin at number 16, 6-2. I wouldn't put them there, but that's just me. Number 17, we got Cincinnati, who's basically standing pat after needing a late game-winning field goal to beat East Carolina 46-43 in a nightmare game for Luke Fickell, who's defensive coach, who actually exhaled when they got that field goal to stay undefeated in the American. They're in the driver's seat. Actually, the American Championship might be the most fun of any of the championship games we get to see this week or this December. Iowa at number 18, 6-2. We'll let it slide, man. I mean, again, I got the issue with the 6-2 teams here, but I'll let it slide. Memphis at 8-1 with a really big win over Southern Methodist at number 19. They beat them in what I thought would have been the fight of the night if it had been in the UFC 244 main card, because this is a lot of fun. 1,000 yards of offense, 802 yards passing, and one Antonio Gibson that decided, tonight is about me. Tonight's about me, Southern Methodist. And Southern Methodist played well, particularly offensively. Shane Buechele showed out. Rasheed Rice showed out. And James Prochet was out there just gaming it up. But Memphis was too much, particularly when they got the ball into Antonio Gibson's hands. Brady White is the revenge of Chad Pennington because he's got a water pistol for an arm, but he's accurate as all hell, and he's not going to turn the ball over. Good win for Memphis. Number 20, Kansas State. Demonstrative win over Les Miles and Kansas. I'm sure the K-Staters are feeling themselves, and they better because they get Texas this weekend. Texas giving up over 460 yards of offense a game, but 300 yards through the air. Kansas State ain't really great at throwing the ball through the air, but then again, Texas giving up 160 yards on the ground. So I'm interested to see what Tom Herman does with the bye week to get ready for a Kansas State team that is prepared to hit them flat in the mouth. Number 21, Boise State got a good win against San Jose State because I thought San Jose State was pretty good, particularly when we're talking about their offense. They're at 7-1. Wake Forest at 22 is being slept on at 7-1. They need to be higher ranked here. I mean, we could easily see them going up to this 14 spot where Michigan is, just behind Minnesota. Wake Forest could be a monster next year with Jamie Newman, with store brand Cam Newton back there. They good. They real good. I mean, and you got Boogie Basham at end. You got Surratt out there catching passes. Wake Forest could be a problem for a lot of people, and they're being disrespected in this poll. Southern Methodist at 8-1 with his first loss at number 23 will allow it. San Diego State at 7-1 coming off a bye, moved up a spot. Look at that. They got better off a bye at 7-1. And then Navy getting into the top 25. If you look at Navy's schedule, you'll see why. Their only losses to Memphis, and Memphis might end up in the American Championship game. Really big deal. Navy also needed a late field goal to beat Tulane. Tulane beat up on my alma mater, Tulsa, last night. Navy actually might be decent. I mean, Malcolm Perry, he's everything you want in a flex bone quarterback. And I remember watching that game against Memphis, and I'm going, I expected that game to be a lot closer than it was, but I understand why it wasn't. So I can understand why you might have Memphis at number 25, Navy at number 25, and I like it. Others receiving votes. Central Florida got 52 after beating the hell out of Houston. Texas got 37 points. Indiana 27, A&M 19, Oklahoma State 11. Huge day for Chuba Hubbard. Put him at the Heisman ceremony, if nothing else. He had another 200-yard rushing performance on just 20 carries. La Tech got 7 votes. Appalachian State got 5 after losing Georgia Southern on Thursday. Washington got 2. Pitt got 2. Iowa State got 1. Virginia got 1 after a loss to North Carolina, Sam Howell. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.